It is Sunday, October 5th, and chaos unfolding in the streets of Chicago this morning. Violent mobs of rioters swarming federal vehicles, throwing smoke bombs, gas, rocks, and bottles at ICE personnel. The president federalizing the Illinois National Guard. The Chicago deployment begins tomorrow, and all of this happening just one day after DHS employees were surrounded and boxed in yesterday in Chicago, overrun, cornered by these Antifa activists. Chicago PD refused to help, leaving these DHS agents for dead. Why? How could that happen? Where were Chicago PD? Well, wait till you see what Governor Pritzker has to say when he was questioned about this today. Unbelievable. Also, Trump's Portland National Guard deployment just blocked. And the latest on the government shutdown, as we're hearing, Dems are set to cave by tomorrow. We'll show you.
Let's turn to the crackling tinderbox that is the city of Chicago this weekend. Last night, the president announced he is authorizing 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to, quote, protect federal officers and assets in Chicago over the objections of the state's Democratic governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Federal authorities under siege this weekend in the Windy City, the city of Chicago. Hordes of domestic terrorists, as they call them, throwing projectiles at ICE agents and their vehicles this morning. This coming just one day after a woman used her SUV to ram a U.S. Border Patrol vehicle before emerging from the vehicle with this semi-automatic weapon. This woman named Miramar Martinez was then shot at the scene, non-fatally shot, and then taken into custody. DHS releasing this statement about what happened, saying the scene became increasingly violent as more domestic terrorists gathered and began throwing smoke, gas, rocks, and bottles at DHS law enforcement. As our ICE law enforcement were responding to the shooting, a domestic terrorist followed them and rammed their vehicle in an attempt to run them off the road. This individual has also been arrested and is in HSI custody. An ICE vehicle popped a tire and was subsequently mobbed by domestic terrorists, forcing law enforcement to abandon their vehicle for their own safety. The vehicle was significantly damaged. Now, we have multiple videos from the scene showing all of this going down. We also have the 911 dispatch recordings, which we're going to play in a minute, where we can hear Border Patrol, the Border Patrol agent, radioing in for help to local police. The agents are being rammed by a vehicle, the person inside brandishing a rifle at them. Then, as they attempt to arrest her, this mob of rioters begin descending on their vehicle, hurling these rocks and bottles at them. The agent radioing in for backup to Chicago PD. And get this, they never come. Chicago PD receives stand-down orders not to assist the federal agents. Here's the 911 dispatch recording. Listen to this.
All right, at 999, just to confirm, at 39th Place in Kedzie, they were saying that they were being surrounded by that large crowd, and they were requesting the police were not sending. I'm waving off all the cars heading to 39th Place in Kedzie.
Again, those are the orders we're being given.
Okay, 10-4. And again, for all the units that we called to go over that way, 39th Place in Kedzie, if you could just hold off 911, 913, 923, 924, 933, 934. Just disregard that. 39th Place in Kedzie.
So who gave that order? Why would they give that order? Why would they give a stand-down order when an officer, a uniformed officer, is in a dangerous situation? Pretty remarkable. Is this a violation of state law, issuing a stand-down order on a uniformed officer in distress? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what we're hearing. This morning, Governor Pritzker was questioned about this. Here's his response. You can't make this up. Watch.
DHS says that CBP officers shot and wounded a woman in Chicago yesterday after, they say, she allegedly rammed a law enforcement vehicle, and agents were boxed in by multiple cars. The spokesperson for DHS, Tricia McLaughlin, accused Chicago police of leaving the scene and refusing to assist agents in securing the area. What do you know about this incident? Were federal agents boxed in and assaulted?
Well, we don't have a lot of facts. What happens in these sorts of incidents is typically ICE puts out a press release before anybody else can speak with the press, and then it gets reported on social media and elsewhere. Remember, these are the same folks who killed a person, unarmed person, just a couple of weeks ago in Franklin Park. At first, they said that the officer had been threatened with his life. The reality of it and the truth of it has now come out, and that wasn't the case. They killed somebody. So here, it's really hard to know exactly what the facts are, and they won't let us access the facts. They are just putting out their propaganda, and then we've got to later determine what actually happened.
President Trump now firmly under the belief that these sanctuary state politicians, he says, are in fear for their lives, that there's no other reason why they'd be allowing this to happen in their states. Here's what the president said this morning. Watch.
But Governor Pritzker said that most of the people I have taken no criminal conviction. So which is it?
He's wrong. Number one, he's wrong. Number two, I really believe he's afraid for his life somehow. When you can have 40 or 50 people killed over the last couple of months, hundreds of people wounded, there's no place like that in the world. Hundreds of people wounded, 50, 55 people shot and killed. And Pritzker gets up and says, what a wonderful place it is. They need help.
Meanwhile, this happening after a local district judge in Oregon yesterday blocked the president's National Guard deployment to Portland. Judge Karen Emmergut ruling this is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law, she said, granting a restraining order preventing Trump from mobilizing the Oregon National Guard to assist federal agents in Portland. So yes, once again, a local district court judge thinking she can just overrule the commander-in-chief. Sorry, Mr. President, but you don't have the authority. You got to go through me first. A bit odd considering the president commands the armed forces, not some local district court judge. And just a quick refresher of what's happening in the city of Portland. This was last night. Last night outside the ICE Detention Center in downtown Portland, DHS forced to deploy Blackhawks over the facility, working with their sniper nests on top of the building to prevent any breach of federal property. Look, these aren't organic protests, folks. These are what are known as paid agitators. Many of these people are the same people, because we recognize them, the same people that you see all over the country. They're flown in, trained, funded, bussed in. They go from city to city. They follow these large ICE deployments around. These people, again, they are trained, funded, and Kristi Noem's had enough, she says. The Trump administration writ large has had enough. They've been trained to form these tight formations, jumping locals just walking down the street. Just walking down the street, they jump these people, and they do it on purpose in an effort to distract the federal officers. That's what they're saying, that these Border Patrol agents will see someone being jumped outside their ICE detention facility, so the Border Patrol agent runs over to help, leaving their posts unattended, which allow these rioters, other rioters standing by, to penetrate that newly created weak point at the facility. And local police, local law enforcement, nowhere to be seen. Once again in Portland, they've been ordered to stand down, not assist these federal officers, hence why Trump's trying to deploy the National Guard to give ICE the backup that they need to do their job safely. This morning, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem explaining just how bad, how dangerous ICE's job has gotten. Watch what she said.
Our intelligence indicates that these people are organized. They're getting more and more people on their team as far as attacking officers, and they're making plans to ambush them and to kill them. We have specific officers and agents that have bounties that have been put out on their heads. It's been $2,000 to kidnap them, $10,000 to kill them. They've released their pictures. They've sent them between their networks, and it's an extremely dangerous situation and unprecedented. So we've put protective detail around those individuals, changed some of our operations to keep our officers safe. But make no mistake, this isn't just about, protesting free speech or that they don't like that people out here are upholding the law of our country. They're actually going out there and saying, kill these people and we'll give you this much money to do it.
Let me know what you think about this. It makes some sense, right? They're purposely trying to overwhelm Border Patrol and ICE by not providing local law enforcement help at all with maintaining law and order. Then the judges block the National Guard from filling that role that local law enforcement should be providing, I don't know, it sounds like a larger strategy at work. Let me know what you think. In another story, we are now in day 5 of this government shutdown. Some Democrats appearing to look for an off-ramp, looking for an off-ramp out of this.
There are conversations ongoing, Maria, where Democrats who I think realize this is a losing strategy for them, and it really ends in a dead end, want to find an off-ramp here and are talking to Republicans, and I've had some conversations with Democrats, but I think right now their leadership is stuck because these left-wing special interest groups are so adamant in their desire to fight President Trump. It's sort of this blind Trump derangement syndrome, if you will. They don't want to give the president a victory on anything. This is not giving him a victory on anything. This is simply continuing to fund the government.
The only benefit that comes from a full government shutdown, that Trump can begin to unilaterally downsize the federal government. This is the first time in years that we're finally moving away from big government to state capitalism, moving away from war to peace, from elitism to populism. All of this new Trump-era government is leading to one thing: gold trading at all-time highs, plus the waning power of the dollar. We are entering this very volatile era, folks, where China, Russia, and their axis are finding ways to transact without the dollar anymore. In the West, writ large, dealing with this massive sovereign debt crisis. Gold, silver's breakout this year, leading all other major asset classes. And it's not only retail demand, but central bank demand. Central banks buying gold up at record levels as well. Now, into this boom comes precious metals in record central bank demand. I believe, look, we're about to come across this Netflix versus Blockbuster moment. This could be one of the most monumental and significant developments in the gold and commodities markets that we've ever seen, where Netflix revolutionized movie watching with streaming and put Blockbuster out of business. This same dynamic could be about to happen with commodities. B of A's Michael Arnett, my favorite Wall Street contrarian, published in his Friday note highlighting the difference between the first half of the 2020s versus the second half, the half that we're entering today. We're leaving, he says, war to peace, open borders to border control, U.S. exceptionalism to global rebalancing. And look at the bottom. We're leaving an era of the U.S. dollar to gold. ETFs are how most people today invest in commodities, right? They made gold trading accessible to a much larger audience in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, but there's still a lot of people who don't trust the audits of these ETFs, who don't believe that they're fully backed by the underlying metals that they claim, not to mention whatever happened to the Fort Knox gold audit we were supposed to see. And a lot of people feel this way, not to mention these ETFs aren't even available in all countries, plus the fees they charge for managing their ETFs. Well, check this out. Billionaire mining tycoon Frank Giustra, along with who I consider to be a mining legend, Sean Rusin, are well aware of the opportunity in disrupting the current ETF providers with a fully backed, vaulted, audited, verified, yield-bearing financial product which could be accessible the world over to everyone. And Frank Giustra just invested heavily to the tune of owning 17 million shares of a brand new, just listed NASDAQ company called StreamX, ticker symbol STEX, the sponsor of today's video. This video disseminated on behalf of StreamX, who's aiming to revolutionize the industry of owning precious metals and commodities by commercializing fully backed, vaulted, audited, and verified ownership of gold and other leading commodities. Again, ticker symbol STEX on the NASDAQ. It's a Netflix versus Blockbuster moment, in my opinion. And it seems that billionaires like Frank Giustra, who owns $90 million worth, USD, worth of STEX right now, agree. StreamX wants to do to the commodity ETFs what Netflix did to the movies and TV show business, what Apple did to music and phones. They want to dramatically improve the user experience and make it simpler, easier, and better, and offer it globally to everyone. Right now, StreamX is just lining up the last details before launching its first product, the fully backed, yield-bearing gold product, on top of the major position that Frank Giustra, one of the premier gold entrepreneurs, owns. The two co-founders also each own 21 million shares worth north of $100 million. So, look, significant skin is in the game for the people leading this revolution. And for years, I've been hearing from people that ETFs are not ideal for them, hard or impossible to trust because of the backing or the auditing of them, and sometimes because of the management fees and premiums, right? And the company has secured up to $1.1 billion in funding through a mix of equity, convertible debentures, and a line of credit led by Cantor Fitzgerald. Get this, the company that was run by Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce, and now managed by his sons. This funding will allow the company to draw upon and should purchase physical gold to back their products, as well as to likely add to their own balance sheet. In other words, StreamX, ticker STEX on the NASDAQ, would be likely one of the first publicly traded companies to own gold on their books. A very welcome change, in my opinion. Their vision is to launch several gold products and then to expand to silver and others. Commodities are ripe for a fintech revolution compared with today's ETFs. For years, I've heard even from Warren Buffett that owning gold does not earn you a yield. And now StreamX has pioneered a product that will produce yield, so the owner will essentially get paid to own gold. The proprietary platform StreamX developed attracted as their chief investment officer Mr. Mitchell Williams, who not only ran the Kuwaiti Sovereign Wealth Fund, but was also the sole portfolio manager for Oppenheimer's flagship value fund. The platform itself was developed by the same software experts that built cybersecurity infrastructure for Capital One Bank, Bank of America, and JP Morgan's credit card processing infrastructure business, one of the largest fintech platforms in the world. The token will be on the Solana and Coinbase's Base blockchain. And as you well know, tokenization of real-world assets is the biggest and most important financial disruptions of our times, from NASDAQ to Robinhood and all the other major financial companies, most of them scrambling to upgrade their offerings to the chain because it potentially opens 24/7 trading on a global scale and democratizes the access of every investor in the world to so many more products. We all know that the gold bull market that we're witnessing has sent its price to the highest ever, and that Frank Giustra, by the way, has positioned in StreamX to the tune of $90 million USD before they launched their first product, which is coming in short order, and that Cantor Fitzgerald was instrumental in securing up to $1.1 billion in financing for StreamX to draw upon and begin purchasing physical gold bars. StreamX seeks to be a fintech tokenization giant. That's what their aim, their goal is. This is inception, folks, and a major revolution could be underway. So look, do your research on StreamX. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.